I also thought that once LSU got up 19-10, I thought, we're going to, probably get another field goal, milk the game away. But, man, the defense could only hold up for so long.
Yeah, and I mean, some games you can say it was the offense that lost the game for us, it was the defense that lost the game for us, but I think it was both sides of the ball. Like, the defense just didn't play like they had the last few weeks. I mean, they did well against against Mississippi State. They really, picked things up, especially in an SEC matchup, but that just wasn't the case this week. It was almost like, you had Bo Nix scrambling on 3rd and 15, threw for a touchdown. All you had to do on 3rd and 15 was just stop him. And he scrambled all over the field. He held that ball for probably 15, 20 seconds. That was entirely too long. He looked like Johnny Manziel out there. He looked like Joe Burrow scrambling out the pocket in 2019. You can't let a quarterback like that go for 3rd and 15 and score a touchdown. Your defense has to be better, and they weren't. And I really don't know what it's going to take for them to get up back to the LSU standard of performance.
Yeah. Patricia?
I think we would have won that game if we just sacked Bo Nix.
Yep.
We lead the SEC in sacks at 18, and Bo Nix after the game said he was tired. He said, "I'm going to sleep well tonight. I just scrambled around the whole field." And if we sack him once, twice, we win that game because he can't convert.
Yeah, and you said it, Patricia. They really could not convert. It seemed like the only time they could get first downs is when Bo Nix would use his legs because, the secondary, they were doing their job for the first half. Cordell Flott, he was doing really good. There was some good safety play. They were making their tackles. It's just you can only hold out for so long before you just have to, give it up.
Yeah, I mean, you can't. I don't know how to express how disappointed I am because that's not LSU.
Yeah.
On both sides of the ball. And people want to blame Max and say it's Max and stuff. Max did his job.
Yeah.
Max, he did throw one interception at the very end, but Max did his job. And honestly, on offense, I blame that on the coaching, the play calling. I blame that on the offensive line and the lack of use in the run game. But also, you can't also use the run game if your offensive line can't block and open up the gaps. You can't use a run game. So I think they're trying, but it's we did better in the run game against State. We did better in the run game against Central Michigan. What happened against Alabama?
Yeah, Patricia?
Yeah, I agree with what Bree said. We could have won. We had that game put away, but the defense just didn't show out. And I don't know. We have to get a run game started this week.
Yeah, it's been a theme all season long. The coaching staff has talked about how we need to get the run game going. We can't abandon the run game. And in probably the most important game of the year, that's what they did in the second half. They did not try and run the ball as much as they should have. Corey Kiner should have gotten more touches than he did. It's just the same thing every week from this team, and it doesn't seem to get solved. How do you think it will get solved?
I hate to say it because if anybody knows me, they know I love Coach O. Coach O and I are from the same parish in Lafourche Parish in Louisiana. He's a great guy, but I think we need a change in coaching. I think Coach O has done what he can here, and his time is just he's done his time.
Yeah.
And I think it's time for a coaching change because it's not like we're not talented. We've had the top 10 recruiting class for the last however many years, 5, 10 years, whatever. We've had a top recruiting class. It's not like our guys aren't good. It's not like they're not talented. I genuinely think it's going back to the coaching and going back to the play calling. And, I've heard they're trying to get Steven Ensminger up there as an analyst in the press box, and maybe that'll help because, he spearheaded that offense in 2019. But I really think it does come down to the coaching. I think our guys are amazing. They're doing their job as much as they can. But, I mean, that play calling, and I saw a podcast yesterday. I want to say it was 247 Sports. Josh White, I think is his name. He was saying, LSU's not in disarray. The program's not in disarray. He said, we don't have guys entering the transfer portal every other day. We don't have coaches wanting to leave every other day. My light's not on. We don't have, coaches leaving every other day. The program's not in disarray. It's the backbones of the program, the head coach, and he's not doing his job like he used to. So that's what I think is what's going to fix the program.
Patricia, what are your thoughts on the coaching staff?
Yeah, Coach O is 8-7 since winning a national championship, and because he's in the hot seat, that causes a lot of problems in the locker room. Just hearing the media talk, is my coach going to get fired? For recruiting purposes, that could possibly hurt a recruiting because Coach O does have a lot of kids who potentially want to come to LSU. So that, I think, will go into play when we're talking about firing him, let alone his contract. And also just the way he blamed the offensive line during the press conference last week. I'm not saying they had problems, no doubt, but he pretty much blamed them for that game and did not talk about the run game even when he was asked. He constantly just said, no, it was the offensive line. We have two guys who won a national championship on there. And looking back at it, I was upset about it at first, saying if I was an offensive lineman, I would not want to be blamed for this game. But I think Coach O thought that was one thing he didn't have to worry about. And now going into this game versus Kentucky, who's undefeated, he has to worry about the offensive line, he has to worry about the run game, and he has to worry about the defense playing a full 60 minutes.
And I think going into the season, like, not only Coach O, but fans, we thought that the offensive line was going to be another Joe Moore award-winning offensive line. They're all returners. 2 of them won a national championship. They're all veterans. And then they play like they have been playing the last few weeks. And honestly, I think that's unacceptable. But I also think that does come down to the coaching. We have a new offensive line coach. He's from Baton Rouge. Why isn't it getting fixed week by week? The offensive line just doesn't seem to be getting any better. We cannot open up the gaps for the run game, which means we can't open up the pass game, which means the defense can read us a lot easier. So I really don't know what it's going to take for that offensive line to kind of step up. But again, like you said, I don't think Coach O should blame them.
Yeah.
He should take the blame. And I mean, he did in his press conference on Monday. I remember one of the reporters I know posted a montage on Twitter just constantly of Coach O saying, I take full responsibility, I take full responsibility, I take full responsibility. Okay, so fix it. You take full responsibility, so fix it. Taking full responsibility is not just owning up to it and saying it's your fault. It's fixing the problem. So I guess we'll see how things change this week against Kentucky. But, I mean, Kentucky's not no easy reading game. Like, they're nationally ranked, and they have one of the best offenses in the country. So they got their work cut out for them.
Yeah, the coaching situation is always a tricky one when talking about Coach O. I mean, he did bring us a national championship 2 years ago, but of course, that was one of the greatest rosters probably of all time.
You had a dream team.
Yeah.
Any coach could have coached that.
Yeah, and like you said, Bree, just something has to give. Like, you're getting multiple top 3 recruiting classes. I mean, it can't be all those guys.
It's not.
If last year you got a top recruiting class, you know, it was a COVID year, it was a down year. This year, it's way different. I mean, fans are back. That's another thing I wanted to talk about. What are you guys' thoughts on, you know, Tiger Stadium being fully back Saturday night in Death Valley?
It was one of the best experiences that I've had in so long. Like, I remember you're a freshman and you're a sophomore.
Yep.
I'm a junior, so I was here in 2019, the year we won the Natty. I remember being Saturday night in Death Valley in the student section, 102,000 fans. For Florida last year, I mean, in 2019, we were sold out.
Yeah.
Like, it was packed. And it felt so good to be in that stadium again and, you know, just be so hyped. And, you know, the first half of the game, we did well. You know, we had some really explosive plays, and we did well offensively. So that made it a lot better just to be able to cheer and yell and just be with so many people, hear how loud it was. It was different than when we played McNeese in Central Michigan. It was a completely different ball game. You know, we saw so many Auburn fans, and you saw them on the opposite side of the student section. Then we also saw them at the very top. It was very different, but a good different, and I really enjoyed it. How did y'all like y'all first experience in a full Tiger Stadium?
Amazing. This was my first SEC game.
Really?
Yes. So that was amazing. And I was in the press box, so you can just hear all the fans. And I'm not kidding, I almost started crying because it was so music. It was so surreal.
Yeah, Patricia took the words out of my mouth. It really was a surreal experience. That first Keyshawn touchdown when he just caught it in the end zone, the whole
and he was double covered.
Yeah,
that was insane. And that kind of shows his athleticism and how talented he is on the field. That he can get double man covered and still catch that ball and make that touchdown. Like, he mossed them, kind of how Dion did a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
So, and also that in that same drive when he made that 40-something yard catch or
67
whatever,
yards.
67-yard catch, and he ran that. Like, I thought he was going to go all the way. So having that at the very beginning of the game, everybody's already hyped because it's the beginning of the game, and then you have a massive play like that, and then score a touchdown on that same drive. That had the stadium so loud and so hyped, and that just made the experience so much better. Like, the game is what it is. Like, the game is amazing, and that's why we're there, but it's also, like, the fan experience. I was in the student section, and it's a feeling like any other.
So, yeah.
That's the one thing that made me upset about not only us losing, but kind of us giving up at the end, because we were so loud. This was a home game, right?
Yeah.
So when you go into Kentucky, they're having their second home game in a row. What can we expect?
And they're coming off a win.
Exactly.
And they're still undefeated.
Yeah.
The only hope I have is Damone Clark was asked, did he hear the boos? Because apparently there were boos at the end of the game. And he said, no, I was locked into the game. So hopefully it will be similar to Mississippi State. I know that was a concern for us with the cowbells. I think that hopefully they'll be locked into the game, and that won't be a problem with the crowd. But they have to learn to play 60 minutes.
Yeah, and let's get into that game tomorrow against Kentucky. Kentucky's undefeated, 5-0. Just came off a huge win against Florida at home. What are you guys' thoughts on Kentucky as an opponent?
I think Kentucky is a very strong team, which is weird to say about Kentucky football. Like, Kentucky basketball, yeah, but, like, Kentucky football, they're never, as long as I can remember, they've never been as much of a powerhouse in football as LSU is. And now it's kind of like the complete opposite. You know, they allow 28.8 points per game. No, they score 28.8 points per game. They allow 16.8 points per game. You know, they average about the same amount of offensive yards as we do, which is fair. But I think Kentucky's going to be a really exciting matchup. And I think, you know, when they played Florida, they won, which was great for them. But they didn't play that well of football. Like, their quarterback didn't play amazing. I mean, they both Kentucky and Florida each had a turnover.
Yeah.
Florida beat them in first downs. Florida beat them in the time of possession. Florida beat them in all that. So they didn't play their best football. So I'm kind of hoping we can capitalize off that. And also, we were talking earlier, and you said that their defense struggles. Like, their thinnest position is at the defensive back. So maybe our offense and our pass game can capitalize off that. But we'll just have to wait and see, because it seems like every week we get a new LSU team.
Yeah. Patricia?
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for as well. Will Levis, their quarterback, only had 87 passing yards last week. So I think if we can just get to the quarterback, just sack him once or twice, they're going to end up running the ball, because they have the best running back in the SEC in Chris Rodriguez. He averages 100 yards rushing per game, and he leads the SEC in rushing yards. I think we really have to get to him, and that's something that worries me, because it's not something we can practice in practice. They have also the best wide receiver in the SEC in Rondell Robinson, and that's not so much a concern for me, because we have the number 2 best wide receiver in Keyshawn Touchdown.
Yeah.
You can go up against Keyshawn with our cornerbacks. Stopping the run game is going to be difficult, because we don't have a run game.
I think, I'm going off based off what you said, I think it'll be a good matchup to see their wide receiver, their number 1 wide receiver, Wan'Dale Robinson. I would love to see him against Cordell Flott, which if Coach O makes the right call, that's what he'll do, is put Cordell Flott on him, since Stingley is still out and there's no timetable in his return. And Cordell's a locked-up cornerback. Like, there is no passing to him. And I think he'll lock him up, and Wan'Dale Robinson will not get as many yards as he thinks he's going to get. And the pass rush just needs to get better for leading the nation in tackles for loss and sacks. They need to bring that same energy back and tackle the quarterback, tackle Will Levis, and stop the run game. And also be consistent and play a full 60 minutes. Like, yeah, I get it, you're tired, but this is the game of football. Yeah. You're going to be tired. You have to play a full 60 minutes. You can't give up. If we do have the lead, that's when they get in their heads, and that's when they start getting cocky. And that's when they start to give up, and they're like, they can let up a little bit because they're winning anyway. Saw how we had a, almost 20-point lead against Mississippi State, and we let them catch up and won by 3? You can't. You can't. You have to play a full 60 minutes. We won that game by the skin of our teeth against Mississippi State. Yeah. They were 1 field goal away from tying the game and going into overtime.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up Mississippi State, because they beat Texas A&M last week, and Texas A&M was a ranked team, if I'm not mistaken, and had we beaten Auburn, we probably would have gotten Texas A&M's spot.
Yeah. I think we would have been top 15 team if we would have beat Auburn, and we should have beaten Auburn. There's no excuse that we should not have beaten Auburn. We led that game through 3.5 quarters. We lost in the last 5 minutes on blown coverage from a defensive back. Blown coverage.
Yeah.
And then Max threw an interception that kind of secured their win.
Yeah.
But if Max wouldn't throw an interception, we might have had time to do something. But
And I
That's what
think
it
part
is.
of our fourth quarter collapse last weekend against Auburn was part of us not really running the ball as we should have. Because think about it, that whole second half, that defense was tired. Like our guys, they were doing all they could. They were tired. Offense wasn't really giving them a break. You know, they were 3 and out in a lot of drives. Had to come punt it. Defense had to get back on the field. Bo Nix already running around like he is. It's no easy ask for your defense.
Absolutely. I think it'll be interesting to see if we actually do improve our run game. I don't know if we will, because it's like week by week we expect improvement. And we've seen small improvements, but I want to see Corey Kiner rush for 100 yards in one game. And I think we need that. I think that'll really shake up a defense, and they won't know what's going to come next, because right now it's easy to read our offense. Our offense is so predictable, and you can't have that going up against a number 16 opponent in the country.
And they are not preparing for us to run. That's not what they're practicing.
Exactly, because they know how our offense works, because our offense has worked like this since 2019. You got to switch it up. The 2019 offense, most of those guys aren't here anymore.
Yeah.
You can't run that same offense. You can't, you have to form out your plays and form out your offense and your scheme based on what your guys can do and what they can't.
Yeah.
Also, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
You good.
But also in 2019, while our pass game was strong and while we had that spread offense that was our backbone, we had Clyde Edwards-Helaire and John Emery and Ty Davis Price. That opened up the run game. Arkansas 2019, Clyde Edwards-Helaire rushed for 100 and something yards. And he took it all the way to the house, all the way across the field in 2019. We had a run game. That's why it was so hard. That's why our offense was so dominant, and it was so hard for defenses to read us. Because not only did we have 3, 4, 5 different pass options, you had sometimes Ty and Clyde in the box, and that could run the ball. And they were both talented. So we need to be not as predictable, and they need to simplify the offense.
That's a big change, because Corey Kiner, we can consider him running back one.
Yeah.
He's 25th in the SEC. So to put that into perspective, that means that every SEC team has at least 2 running backs that are better than our starting running back.
Yeah, and I think that's so sad for his talent, because he is talented enough to be a top running back in the SEC, but they're not giving him the ball. You can't expect these guys to show out and to be nationally ranked in your conference if you don't give them the ball. And I do think that also goes back to not only coaching, but our offensive line performance. Like I said, if you can't open up the gaps, then where your running back's going to go? They're just going to get tackled at the line of scrimmage.
True, but I think we give up too easily on the run game.
We
need Corey Kiner to settle in there. They kind of put in Corey Kiner, then Ty Davis Price. They go back and forth. I think we just need to start Corey Kiner and get him settled. Remember, he's still a freshman. This is very new.
Yeah, I agree. And I think one of the main things we need to do going forward, I think Corey Kiner should at least get 10 touches a game. Mm-hmm. Because at least then he has his 10th carry. Then you can start putting in guys like Armani Goodwin. Give him, a fresh burst. Or then maybe put in TDP if you got to get a 3rd and 1. Hand it to him. And it goes back to what Bree said. This offense is way too good. We're loaded with weapons. We're way too good to be predictable on offense. We have Jack Betch. We have Keyshawn Butte. We have Deion Smith. We have all these guys. And for the opponent to just, be able to play a certain way because they know we can't beat them a certain way, we're too talented for that.
Yeah, I also think we need to get better at the line of scrimmage, get better on 3rd down, and also our red zone offense isn't what it used to be, which is also unacceptable for the LSU standard of performance. We used to dominate in the red zone. And we scored 1 touchdown last week against Auburn. Cade York was the backbone of that Auburn game, and if Auburn wouldn't have scored that touchdown, Cade York would have won that game for us, because we had 19 points, 13 of those came from Cade York with 1 51-yard field goal.
The good news is there, though, that Kentucky opponents have a 92% success rate in that red zone. So I think if we just get there, we can score.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to ask you guys one more time. What are you guys' keys? What do you guys think is LSU keys to the game for LSU to win this game?
I have a few. So first of all, simplifying the offense. Don't try to do all these crazy plays. Block well, open up the run game. Give Corey Kiner the ball, feed Corey Kiner. He'll do what he needs to do if you give him the ball. And then also, what was I going to say? Sorry, brain freeze. Keep the pass game. Have your weapons where you need them, but don't rely on it. If you need it, go use it. You need to use the pass game, obviously. But, again, don't pass the ball 48 times in a game and expect to win. Defensively, get better in get better in the defensive line. Sack the quarterback. Like she just said, their quarterback didn't do that well. He only had, 87 yards last game against Florida? He is sackable. He's not this dominant quarterback like Joe Burrow. You can't sack this man. Sack the quarterback. Go back to that. We lead the nation in sacks and tackles for loss, and we're like one of the top defensive lines in the country and in the SEC. Go back to that defensive mindset and put Cordell Flott on their best receiver. Lock him up. They have nobody to throw to.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree with you with the run game. I think we have to get something started just to throw the defense off a little bit. And also, I think we need to make somebody else a threat. We need to make Jack Bash, Brian Thomas Jr., have the defense not want to double team Keyshawn Boutte. That's what they're preparing for this week. They're saying, okay, the chemistry between Max Johnson and Keyshawn Boutte. Max Johnson sometimes tends to treat Boutte like a check down.
Yeah.
Kind of just, I'm under pressure. He doesn't have time to throw. Okay, Boutte's got to be out there somewhere, right? And I think we would just rely on him so heavily, which is great. But also, there's other guys like Jack Bash, Brian Thompson Jr., Deion Smith, who had a great game against Central Michigan 2 weeks ago. We need to give these guys an opportunity. And most importantly is we have to develop a pace. Last week, we spent 4 of our timeouts just to avoid delay of game penalties. And for a team who tends to, as we've seen last week, have the lead and then lose the lead, we need to go out there. We can't run out the clock. So it's not like, oh, look, we can get up 14. Auburn scored 14 unanswered points in the fourth quarter last week. So we can't just go out there and say, look, we're going to run out the clock and win this game. As we can see, it just doesn't happen. So we need to go out there. We need to save our timeouts just in case we lose this game and the defense forgets that there's a full 60 minutes. And we need to conserve these timeouts so we can go down, score if need be. And then defensively, I think this is a mental game for them. They need to learn how to communicate better. They didn't look like they were communicating well last weekend in the fourth quarter, and they need to go out there and say, just because we're winning by 14, just because we're winning by 7, it doesn't matter. We have to win this game. We have to finish the game. There's 15 minutes left.
They need to play a full 60 minutes. They can't get in their head. They can't get cocky if they're winning. They can't give up on themselves if they're losing. You have to play a full 60 minutes because it just goes to show you if you watch football long enough, you can win a game at any point. The Bluegrass Miracle. Recreate the Bluegrass Miracle where we won that game. Like, it is a mental game, and that's just the game of football. You can't get in your head. You can't get too cocky. You can't get too down on yourself. You have to block out your own noise. Coach O says all the time that you have to block out the noise of fans and people on social media, whatever. The own noise is in your head. Block out your own noise of you overthinking and stuff. Play the game you've played your entire life, and play it the way you know how, because these guys are good. And I'll say that time and time again. It's not like we're not talented. It's not like these guys aren't good. They're just not playing to their potential.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that, Bree, because it really makes me wonder. Like, I've watched this team so long, and one thing I've always noticed about them is they love being the poster child for adversity. They love overcoming adversity, and I've seen them do it a lot. Like, in seasons past, coming off of pretty bad losses, pretty bad home losses, the next week they'd always rebound and always bounce back. And this week, tomorrow, I could see that happening. Mm-hmm. I could see us coming up to the challenge, playing to our game, and beating Kentucky in Kentucky.
Yeah, I definitely don't think it's going to be a close game if we want to do score predictions. I mean, I think Kentucky, they're good. They're undefeated. They're number 16 in the country. I'm not going to downplay their talent by any means or their way of playing. I think LSU, if they have the right mindset, if they go into this game mentally prepared, not only physically prepared, but mentally prepared, I think this game is going to be competitive. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think it's going to be a close game. I'll give it 20-17.
I think it is going to be a close game. I think we're going to be able to get to Will Levis. I know they do have a good offensive line, so that is something to be concerned about. But I think we're going to be able to get to him. We can lock him up. The problem is the run game. We just have to get to Chris Rodriguez. I think Damone Clark's going to meet him at the line, just lock that run game up. And then offensively, we're going to hopefully get a run game started and open up that offense just to alleviate some pressure off Keyshawn Touchdown. And I'd like to see our offensive line play a little bit better, again, to alleviate the pressure from Max Johnson. And I think Kentucky's gonna end up winning the game. I don't think we're ever gonna have the lead, but we're gonna keep it close, and I'm gonna say 28-23. I think it's gonna be a big field goal game again.
Yeah, I don't know if I said it, but I had Kentucky winning, like 20-17. I had Kentucky winning, but yeah.
Yeah. I don't know why, but I don't know why I just see this LSU team going into Kentucky, starting off fast and just
They
coming
always
out
start
with
off fast, and then they lose their momentum. And that's the most disappointing
Yeah.
part of watching this team is because they start off fast. You see how good they are.
Yeah.
You see their talent. And then they lose their momentum, which
Yeah.
sucks. And that's what loses the game because it is a mental game.
And I
Yeah.
think we have to go into halftime, not just saying, oh, look, we're up. That's great. I think we need to go into halftime and say, okay, what changes can we make? Because there's always room for improvement.
Yeah, and that being said, my final score predictions, I'd probably have to say maybe 35-28 us.
Us?
Yeah.
Okay. I respect it. I respect it. And I got to start writing down our score predictions and seeing how close we were. Because that was pretty close last game, but opposite. Like, I said 22-7. No, I said 24-22. Something like that. And it was just opposite. But when we had Marcus Spears on Tiger TV last week, he said he predicted 24-20 LSU. And he was almost right,
Yeah.
but opposite. But also one thing Marcus Spears said that he wants to see in LSU is consistency. And that's one thing we don't have. Like, we're so different every game. You don't know what team you're going to get every game. You don't know if they're going to give the ball to TDP or Corey Kiner-Moore. You don't know if Jack Best or Deion Smith is going to have the game of their career. You don't know what the defense is going to do, or if they're going to sack the quarterback 8 times and lead the nation in sacks again another week, or if they're going to let a quarterback like Bo Nix run all over the field looking like Johnny Manziel. So consistency is definitely key, and I definitely think that's the key to the game and a key to winning.
Yeah, and you said it, Bree. You never know what you're going to get next from this LSU team, and that's part of what makes them so exciting to watch. Like,
Yeah.
you never know if this game's going to be a blowout or if we're going to blow them out, something that we've only done once this year against McNeese. But that's the greatness of the game, and I'm really excited to see tomorrow.
Yeah, I am too. I think it'll be a really exciting game. I think it'll be a fast-moving game. And I don't think it'll be a blowout on either side. I think it'll be a close game, a close-scoring game, and it'll be a good one for sure on either side. I think they'll both play their hearts out. They just have to go into it mentally ready.
Yeah,
Patricia?
I agree. And I think the energy's going to be there in the fans as well, just with Kentucky. But, yeah, I agree. I think they just need to go out and they need to, again, as I said before, develop a run game. It seems like a broken record, but and the defense has to come to play.
With that being said, that is all the time we have for today. Thank you for joining us. For Bree Andrus and Patricia Caputo, I am Ronald Riggs for the KLSU Tailgate Show. Go Tigers.
Yeah, Tyler texted me.
Wait, this way. I think you paused the music. Wait, just press the orange again. Other one.
The way you say orange is so funny.